Golly, look at that.
Isn't that gorgeous?
Holy moly. That's what I'm talking about, Jimmy.
You got a double.
You got one back there, too.
Rising with the morning sun, I got no work today. You might find me up on
Kisses
the
him,
bayou, over in the ocean bay. Might be fishing on a mountain street or
Look at
a lake
that.
down in Tennessee.
That's a 12 or 14 pound fish.
Might as well grab your fishing
That's a rock or
pole.
something right
Come
there.
and go
That's
along with me.
Oh, he's 10. Oh, my
What a
goodness.
beauty.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God, when Jimmy used it. You gotta be kidding. Oh, Jimmy. Woo! Woo! Come here, little guy. Come here, little guy. Pretty nice little fish right there, Rusty. I'm fishing with my buddy Rusty Barron of Shell Oil Company. Rusty takes care of me with my Pennzoil Marine and my Shell Rotella and of course Quaker State. That's a pretty nice little start right there. It's not a giant, but a pretty nice start. We're fishing one of my favorite places, Gros Savon in Lake Charles, Louisiana. And there we go.
There it is on the board.
He hit that little swim jig. Yeah, buddy. That's a nice fat little fish right there. He's like me, he's been eating people food. Good start right there, Rusty. What do you
All right,
think?
that's nice.
I love it. I love it. All right, buddy. I got to tell you a secret. Rusty was out here fishing yesterday, and he fixed out the hot bait, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But Rusty actually is the total reason I caught that fish. Not really.
Kissing fish already.
Got it.
Oh, that's two for Jimmy.
Come here, little feller. I'm getting all the little ones out of the way for you,
All right,
Rusty.
appreciate it.
2 or 3 big giants hit it, and I just shook them off. Oh, me. It's amazing how that swim bait has become such a popular deal in bass fishing, and so many of us that have fished this thing for 50 or 60 years, fish it down on the bottom, dropping it in the holes, flipping. And now all you got to do is really throw it out there and crank it back in. It's kind of amazing. Swimming a jig has become very popular, and all we're doing out here now, we're throwing that out. We've got grass that comes just almost to the surface. It's late in the year, September, and we're just winding that bait along there. I've got a Yum Pulse trailer on there on a Lucky Strike. Golly, did you see that fish come and get that? Holy cow, look at that. I mean, he came and got that from 20 feet away. From 20 feet away. That's a nicer fish too, golly. Look at that, look at that. That bait was, basically it's like fishing a spinnerbait. All the things you can do with a spinnerbait, you can do with a jig. And the only difference is you don't have a blade on it. You know, so we've actually been swimming a jig forever, but we've had a blade on it. And now we're swimming a jig without a blade, is what we're doing. But I've got just a regular football head jig. You know, you don't have to have a specific swimming jig. Everybody makes jigs. But I've got a Lucky Strike football head on there. And that Yum Pulse on the back of it. And you know, I'm throwing it out, winding it in. That bait, look at that fish. Look at that fish. Boy, he's long, isn't he? And swimming it, that bait was basically right on top of the water. I mean, basically right on top of the water. And I just swimming along, and I bet he came from 15 or 20 feet away and just crashed over and got that thing. That little action on the tail, you know, it's kind of funny. When you come to Louisiana, well, really anywhere in the nation, about the first jig anybody pulls out is a green pumpkin, which is what I've got, a green pumpkin with a little red in it. But we put a white tail on it. So I guess the fish think that's a combination. That's a combination of a big crawdad with a shad chasing it or something. I don't know what it thinks it is, but anyway, it works. We got a white trailer on a crawfish. Does that make sense to you, Rusty?
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does. As long as they bite it, it makes sense. I agree with you 1,000%. as long as they bite it. All right. Ah, I'm all excited. That's a pretty nice fish, looks like, too.
Get him off that lily pad.
Boy, they are eating that thing up.
They are.
That's a good fish. Yeah, they are eating it up. I mean, smooth eating it up. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. That's what I'm talking
Look at
about.
that, huh?
You lost the little paddle off of your mud minnow. You lost the little paddle
yeah.
off the end of it. You
Sure
had to put
did.
a new one on. Do you reckon you lost it before you caught that fish or after? Do you know?
I'm sure it was during. Let's.
Yeah, I'm sure he probably ate
So
the
do
end
I
off of it.
I have to kiss this fish?
Yeah.
Is that the deal?
All right. I hope you can kiss better than me. I'm just saying. Rusty, I'm just saying.
All right, well-
that was kind of not a. That
was-
fish is not exactly smiling. I'm just saying.
That's just wrong.
This portion of Jimmy Houston Outdoors has been brought to you by Mercury Marine, #1 on the water. Favorite Fishing Show is brought to you by Ranger Boats, still building legends one at a time. By Mercury Marine, #1 on the water. By Yum, start a feeding frenzy. By Ray Marine, don't just go fishing, go hunting underwater with Ray Marine. And by Shell Rotella, the engine oil that works as hard as you do.
There's one right there. I should have left that one for you, Rusty. He's not very big.
Oh, that's wrong.
That's nasty, isn't it?
That's
I'm just
wrong.
trying to get the little ones out of your way. That's
Okay,
really what
all
I'm
right,
doing.
All right.
Getting the little ones out of the way. I know you're fixing to.
Hey, did
bang
you
on
not
the-
kiss that fish?
No, he's too young. I don't want to go tell his mama somebody, there's this strange looking guy up there gave me a kiss. What's the deal on that? I don't want to
Okay.
be their first kiss.
Piece of work.
That's a boy fish anyway. I don't kiss boy fish.
See?
Only them cute little girl fish. That little guy, little one. Foul hooked. Thought for a minute that was a crappie when I first saw him. No, he's hooked in the mouth. You know, I haven't seen anything sticking out of their throat. You know, a lot of times you'll see crawfish whiskers sticking out of their throat, or
Right.
shad tail, or bluegill tail, or bass tail. But that's one of the things I always do is look and see on every fish I catch, look down their throat. That's actually probably how I started kissing fish. I was looking to see what they ate, and that bass looked up at me and she said, "Oh, my dream man," and gave me a kiss, and I thought, that's pretty good. And so I started kissing them all. Maybe that's how it started, I don't know. That does sound pretty good, doesn't it? I didn't even think about that. That's probably how I started catching. That bass looked up there and couldn't resist. Oh my goodness. Gotta kiss this guy. Oh, there he is.
That's respectable.
Nice one. That's a good fish there, Rusty. Now that one deserves some sugar.
All right. All right.
Yes, sir. That's a good one. Did you run that a little deeper or about the same?
About the same.
Yeah. There's grass in places
That
out
wasn't-
here.
That wasn't yum.
That was what?
I said that kiss was not yum.
I wonder what the fish might say. Yeah, I wonder what the fish might say.
Jamie, I'm going to teach Bailey how to start throwing a casting rod. So what advice do you have for me? He's always done the spinning rods.
You're trying to teach him how to cast. You don't tell him to aim up
I
here.
got one.
That's a good fish. Oh, you
Oh.
picked up that little red RC crankbait.
Yes,
huh?
I did.
Ah!
You saw him.
Hey, you got every. It's
saw
close
him.
enough to count.
That's
Close
a
enough
close-
to count. That's for sure. That's a good fish, right
That was
there.
a good fish. We're sitting here talking about.
Rusty tricked me here. We're talking about how to teach his daughter Bailey how to throw a casting rod. He tricked me. He picked up a little RC2 crankbait, runs about 2 or 3 or 4 foot deep, and threw it out there and got a huge fish on. You know, while I was talking. But anyway, when you're trying to teach them how to cast, you don't tell them to aim up here.
Right.
Now when they aim up there, the bait goes way out there where they want to go. But I'll work with her a little on it. She can learn how pretty easily. That one you just caught was trying to eat this one. he was in there trying to eat this one and saw your little crankbait. That's the smallest one of the day right there. You better go hide.
I got one.
Eat you. What you got?
It's a little bit bigger one.
Oh, that's a nice one there. You have turned into a crankbait fisherman.
I'm telling you.
Back there, and I don't blame you.
This RC crankbait and I are having a good day.
He slipped that in without telling me about it. You know, I'm telling you. Talking about Bailey, teaching Bailey how to throw a casting reel, which I recommend for any parent to do to their kids. You know, they need to learn to use both a casting reel and a spinning reel. And then all of a sudden he's catching fish. I look and he's got that little orange crankbait on. Yeah, a little change of pace back there. I got you a spinnerbait too. Next thing I know, you'll be catching them on the spinnerbait too.
I got one.
Oh,
That's
goodness,
a hog.
how big is that fish?
That's a big one.
Goodness, how big is that fish? If he's as big as he sound, I'm telling you, I'm gonna power pole down right here.
Oh, look at this.
I'm gonna power pole down. Golly, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah, it is.
That's a good one.
All right, you gonna lip him for me?
I got him. Golly.
Oh,
God, the lips on that.
look at that.
The lips on this guy. I mean, oh my goodness. Ah, looky there. Woo-hoo. And you're back to the jig. Mud minnow.
Yep.
Oh my
at that.
goodness, there you go.
Let's see that.
I'm power pole down. I don't know, I don't have it just right on my light, but I got to take a picture.
Jimmy,
of
that's
this.
a beautiful
I
fish.
gotta get you a picture of that fish. Hold it out just a little bit. Perfect. Woo!
That's a good fish, Jimmy. That's a
Oh,
good
he's
fish.
fantastic. That's a big old fat girl. There's good sugar on that one. You gotta have good sugar on that one, man.
All right, look at that.
That is good. That is super right there, man.
Right in that weed.
This portion of Jimmy Houston Outdoors has been brought to you by Kid Casters, where fishing begins. Jimmy's Look Back is brought to you by Duracell Marine RV Batteries. Start strong, troll long.
Here we go.
Oh, I missed one.
Monster,
You got him.
Jimmy. I think.
Oh, I thought you had one, Jerry.
Yeah, I almost did. Well, you know, though, what you say now, Jimmy, there's so much truth, and there's so many people seem like it when they have a fish, miss a bait a couple of times, they'll go ahead and they think the only thing to do is to put on a trailer hook. And that, of course, in a lot of cases could just cause you more heartache than it does help.
Well, I use a trailer hook 100% of the time in tournaments, but, you know, a trailer hook will solve the problem sometimes, but usually you have some little something that needs to be changed in your bait. Some little something that needs to be changed in it.
Well, then I want you to tell me what it is I can change to make my fish get bigger. I got them hitting
I don't
the
have
bait.
that secret. I don't have that secret. Oh, come here, baby. Oh, nice fish. Oh,
Sneak getting out of them rocks.
I got everything there. Fish and bass and everything. Come in this boat, sugar booger. Come here. You can tell we've changed water considerably. What we was fishing out here this morning, we moved down into an area that's got lots of moss in it, and the water is really, it's a funny deal. You know, we got real clear water, we got murky water. If you get into places where the water's got a chance to filter through this moss a long way, well, then you'll get into some awfully clear water. And that fish was laying up on a rock. Florida bass, kind of skinny, really, isn't he, Jerry?
He really is for this.
That's why he was feeding on that spinnerbait, huh?
He's been looking for that spinnerbait.
He was laying up there on those rocks. The only rocks for a long way around, and that's probably the reason he was there.
Jimmy's Look Back has been brought to you by Duracell Marine RV Batteries.
I got one. Jimmy,
How
I'm
big?
gonna come up
How
and.
big?
Yeah, I think he's pretty big. I'm gonna come up and
That's
see
pretty
you.
big,
I'm
huh?
gonna come up and see you.
How big? Hey, that's not fair. What are you doing up here? Hey!
Uh-oh, he's
Hey! That's a redfish. It's not even a bass.
You gonna lip him for me
That's
again?
not even a bass. It's got grass.
Look at that. Well, that's why it's so big.
Anyway.
He got down in that grass.
What are
didn't
you doing up here? Well, maybe you do have a bass.
he? Well, long line release. Yeah, little catch and release.
That's probably my fault. I probably should have grabbed him before I took the grass.
I got it.
That's what you get for coming up to front of the boat.
That's funny.
Hey, that's not fair. I'm putting your picture up on Facebook. You're supposed to be like drinking a bottle of water or Mountain Dew or something. He's up there. He caught the fish right in front of my trolling motor. I'm powered pole down, putting his picture up on social media where thousands of people can see your giant fish that's twice as big as anything I've caught. And he's up here hogging the front. Not only that, he comes in front of the boat to lose it. You notice I said lose it, not land it. I don't know how that fish got off. Just happened.
That'll teach me to go to the front of the boat, won't it? Oh, got another one. No, he got off.
Oh my goodness.
Well, you can't say we're not catching fish.
Oh. Hey, Rusty, you know, I know that Shell's involved a lot in conservation, and y'all do a lot of things to make fishing and hunting better, to make the woods and water better. And, you know, one of the things I appreciate, and I think that, you know, I know y'all have thousands of employees and a good percentage of them hunting fish, but guys like you that have a passion for doing the same things that I have a passion for, hunting and fishing, spending the outdoors. So it's more than just conservation for conservation's point with Shell and with you. I know that for a fact.
It is, Jimmy. I mean, we're involved, and you may have heard a little bit about it already, but the Coastal Conservation Association, Nash Fish Wildlife.
Golly.
Look at that, he's just catching fish after fish.
Hang on, you can talk about that in a minute. I mean, he came from 50 feet away. I didn't interrupt you there. I didn't want to interrupt you, but the fish couldn't wait. I saw a wake coming from 50 feet away, I swear. That's a nice fish. That's right out in that big open right there. There might be a bunch of them out there. Now this one has got a little tail of a fish sticking out of his mouth. Not a crawfish, you know, a fish of some sort. Probably a bluegill or another bass or shad. All right, I'm sorry about that.
No. You're right. In addition to all the conservation efforts we have, I mean, if you just think about, with mine in the marketing of lubricants, Rotella, as you know, I mean, we've been blessed that for generations people have used Rotella on the farm and off-highway equipment and, big trucks. But like you said, at the end of the day, not only that's what we do. We love the outdoors, but also our consumers love the outdoors. And that's kind of why Rotella is so involved in everything you do, Quaker State's involved in everything you do, because we know that at the end of the day, that's who's using our products.
Well, a true conservationist, and I've said this forever, is always been the actual hunters and fishermen. And we're not wanting to conserve the bass just because we're in love with the bass. We want to make it better so we can catch them.
That's true. As a company, we want to be the good corporate, partner as well. So you think Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, National Fish and Wildlife, Coastal Conservation, all those organizations we're very involved in. So, and proud of it. I mean, it's, again, like you said, I love to hunt and fish, and I'm proud to work for a company that sees, that we need to be a part of that.
Well, I appreciate guys like you that, in the position that you're in, having the same passion that I've got for it. We appreciate it a lot.
Hey, it's been a pleasure and a lot of fun fishing with you today. I just want to let you know that. Even though you let my biggest fish go, I just want you to know that.
You caught your biggest, I let your second biggest go. Actually, not on purpose.
Jimmy Houston Outdoors is brought to you by Lucky Strike, where preparation and opportunity collide. By Jackson Kayak, Advantage Fisherman. By Orion Coolers, never lose your cool. By Soft Science, supreme comfort footwear for the angler. And by Bass Pro Shops, your adventure starts here. Houston's Helpful Hints is brought to you by Jimmy Houston High-Tech Performance Fishing Rods.
Fishing a swimming jig is pretty easy as long as you keep in mind that you can do
really everything with a swimming jig as you can with a spinnerbait. Basically what you're doing is you're fishing a spinnerbait without the spinner on it. And when you're fishing a spinnerbait, conversely, you're fishing a jig with a spinner on it. So everything you can do, you fish that bait 6 inches deep, you fish it 6 foot deep, you can fish it 60 foot deep. You can run it up real fast on top of the water, get by a bush or a stump or a corner of a boat dock, stop, let it drop down. You can shake your rod tip with it, make it look like you're having a little deflection strike. Simplest thing in the world. I like to use a 1/4 ounce jig most of the time, but now we've used jigs all the way up to 1 ounce. I like to use a 1/4 ounce jig, and quite honestly, you don't have to buy a jig that says swimming jig. This is a 1/4 ounce Lucky Strike jig, football head jig, works great. And the tails you want to put on, I like a relatively short tail, something like a bomber mud minnow or a yum mud minnow, a yum pulse swim bait. All of those things work good, but something that's relatively short, that's got a lot of action on the tail. Not a twin tail usually, but a single. This seems to work really good. I fish it mostly with, depending on the water I'm fishing in, but most of the time I like to use it on about 15-pound high seas Grand Slam line, 6.5 foot rod, and you do the exact same things with a swim bait as you do with a spinner bait, except when you get a bite on a swim bait, you're gonna wanna hesitate just a little bit before you set the hook. If you're missing a fish, hesitate a little bit longer, but don't set it the moment they strike or you're gonna miss a lot of those fish. Swim bait fishing, it's easy if you know how.
Well, it's late in the day and the sun's getting low. Caught me a big one, but I let him go. I sure had fun just watching him stretch my line. Made me a lifetime memory out here fishing Jimmy Houston and me. Hey, Jimmy.